Radio Zero.
Wow. It's Radio Zero with Rick and Rose, Friday, November 17th, 2023. And we just learned, hot off the presses, that, that what, Sam Altberg?
Altberg.
Well, you just
Nice.
Sam Altman just was ousted. He's the CEO. He was the CEO of OpenAI.
Yeah.
And was just ousted by the board of directors. You heard it here, folks, and we heard it
Or somewhere else.
Yeah, we heard it from the New York Times.
You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple, Spotify, radiozero.us. We're live streaming on Facebook on the Radio Zero page and Poster Children page, on Twitch at PCJC USA, and on the Poster Children YouTube channel. Back to every other Friday at 5 p.m. We'll see.
We will see.
We shall see, but that's 5 p.m. Central. That's today. You can patronize us at patreon.com/Radio Zero. Thanks to everyone who is a patron helping us out here.
So, I mean, from what it looks like, he didn't know. Like,
well,
right.
It wasn't like, well,
or
yeah.
wasn't he, or he didn't like it, and the board of directors is not available for comment or something like that.
Yeah, so it'll be exciting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm just, for me, like, I'm mad that they did this on Friday because, like I said to you, I can't believe they did it on Friday. And you're like, yeah, of course. But my reasoning is that it's like another 6 days before the hard fork comes out. Because don't they tape on like Thursday?
Probably they'll have to do a special episode.
Oh, yeah, maybe they will. Yeah, who knows? But man, that's, oh, well. You have anything to say about it? That's the end of AI right there.
Maybe they're going to replace him with a chat bot.
Hey, you need like a yeah, we don't need him anymore. So you're listening to
I asked, do you have like topics? What's to talk about?
Yeah.
I'm at a loss today.
So I have my students using that all the time. I'm like, just use it all the time. I don't care. I'm never going to tell them not to use it because I won't know if they used it or not anyway. So, I have no way. It's like the cheating on the test thing, right? It's like just somebody's going to cheat and other people are not going to cheat. And so just have all your tests open book.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say just let everybody cheat.
Yeah. Well, they're going to cheat anyway. Some of them are going to cheat, and then the ones who aren't going to cheat are going to be at a disadvantage. And you don't want people who are like, doing the right thing to be at a disadvantage, right? Like not like if you have any control over it at all. It's rough being a teacher, you guys.
Well, it's and you make it sound like cheating,
everybody's a cheater.
Cheating, yeah, but
Yeah.
I think what it is you have to adjust and adapt.
Yes.
And so part of the problem is basing, evaluating students on, for instance, writing a paper or something like that, right? That's, you got to figure out something else.
Yeah,
For evaluation.
Or evaluating them writing a basic computer program.
Right. And so, yeah. So, but that's also, adapting to that is, well, okay, the world's going to change. So, earliest days of teaching or university-like experiences, it would be, memorizing and reiterating oral history or oral, science that, ideas about the world and how it works. And, you had the teacher talking and explaining, and then then the students would have to remember that and state it. And then you had the printed word, and then it all became text-based, right? And then we've moved to digital technology. Now we're moving to a time when if you have OpenAI generating or large language models generating content, then there's some other way of, I don't know.
Yeah. What's that teaching pyramid thing called? I can't remember what it's called now. God, I can't remember the. It's like Brooks. I can't remember what it's called, right? And I remember
Like a
like I have to go on ChatGPT to ask it what the teaching pyramid is called. What is the teaching pyramid? What is that teaching?
see if I can get it before you. Oh, my brain is so addled.
I know. Yeah, mine is too.
Something hierarchy.
Yeah. Bloom's taxonomy.
Taxonomy.
Yeah. Thank you, ChatGPT.
Ugh.
It's still
So
working,
terrible.
thank goodness. No, we just started at 5, Larry. Hello. So the Bloom's taxonomy is really neat. It's like a little pyramid. Now I got to type it in, but it tells you like it basically tells you like depending on what is applied by generations of K through 12 teachers and college instructors and their teaching. So it's a pyramid, and the bottom of it is like your 100 level classes, right? So you're like it's just remember, and then the next little level is understand, and then apply, and then analyze, evaluate, and create is the top level. That's like for your 300 level classes. Create. Right. So if you're, so I'm teaching music business, for example, and that's music 175. So I should be asking the students to remember things, like remember dates, like when did the Prince record come out, and understand like why the Prince record came out and was, and apply, like if there's another Prince record, what label will it be on?
1999.
Yeah, stuff like that, right? So I better go back to but that's why were we talking about Bloom's taxonomy? Oh, I was talking about it because you were saying that there's no need to have students regurgitate stuff anymore. I mean, and there is a need, but you're going to have to be very careful when you test them on it.
Well, it depends on what you teach and what. Yeah. So if for instance, nursing, right? It's a lot different than creative technologies. For instance, like what the expectations are, right? And knowledge, and how, whether or not you're supposed to be able to instantly reference something in your mind, or if you're going to have a little chat bot helping you out. But maybe, nurses, doctors and nurses will have that too, I guess.
Sure, why wouldn't they? And then they'll be wrong for, the underserved populations, and then they'll have to have books and complaining about that, and then they'll have to fix it. They'll have to fix the algorithms and stuff. I don't even like, out of the corner of my eye, just looking at there was like some other thing in the New York Times just talking about the hallucinations. And this is called a hallucination.
Lies.
Lies that come out of the chat bot. And it says, between 3% and 27% of everything that it spews out are what is termed hallucinations.
But I always talk about certain people that I've known who are kind of like that too. It's like they're really knowledgeable, but
they just make shit
but
up.
they speak with authority, but then
Yeah.
about 50% of what they say is wrong, and you have to decode. You have to like always have a filter on where it's like, okay, this person's smart, knows a lot of stuff, but then over time you realize half of what they say is not correct, and then you have no idea. So I mean that's like people.
I came across that exact thing in my class. Like I had Mike Moraski of Steel Pole Bathtub fame talk in my class. Not saying that he was spewing out a bunch of garbage, but somebody asked him like, what do I need to know a certain DAW? Like, is there something? What can you not live without if you want to become a music composer in the field of? And Mike has written the music to. Mike works at Valve and is the composer, like the in-house composer for Valve. So he's written Portal 2. He's written everything that you can think of, and the students are really impressed with that. But somebody asked him, what can you live without? And he said, you gotta use Pro Tools. No, that's not what he said at all. He said the exact opposite. He said exactly like what you guys say. It's just like, well, it's more important to know how a DAW works than to know like a certain DAW, and talked about like hating or not, talked about disliking certain DAWs and how they treat their clients and stuff like that, and and I was like, okay, you guys, we've trotted a bunch of people in front of you before, and you've heard people say you need this, you absolutely talk with authority about one thing and talk with authority about something else. So you gotta, I said to the class, I'm like, you have to you have to consider who's talking to you. You have to think about their background. You have to think about what they've done. How have they proven themselves in the world? You know, like you have to think about where your information is coming from. So I said that.
But I think you can have authoritative people who say, "Oh, that's not important," and then you can have other people successful authoritative people who say you absolutely have to do it this way.
Brian M., a friend of ours, asked me if I wanted to do the roulette. They have a game where they have like a special guest star. They do like roulette on your in your iTunes or whatever. It's Brian Muskoff, and he asked me if I wanted to be their special guest. And I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, all you have to do is give me an hour and a half's worth of your material on your phone that's on your shuffle. And I'm like, you're actually not going to want that from me. And he's like, no, he's like, the more embarrassing, the better. And I'm like, it's all capoeira music. It's all capoeira music, all of it, except for the samba music. It's like, and that samba, like, do 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 do. It's not that. It's it's real samba reggae. So he just wrote back, oh yeah, never mind. See, embarrassing is okay, but I guess like some other genre of music that nobody's going to want to listen to for an hour and a half is not, which I think is funny. So that brings me to the history of hip hop. So this has been my we decided.
I gotta make sure I put my seatbelt on because
put your seatbelt on because this is whiplash.
I've already felt like we've bounced. Yeah. Okay, go on, continue. Sorry.
So the director of the School of Music, decided that we should have more than one, black music class, and I know we have two. And more have been proposed now by our colleague, who teaches these classes. And then we decided, well, since there's like a history of, I don't know if there's a history of pop music, but there's a history of rock music now. Somebody's teaching like one of the gen eds is a history of rock music. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, well, we need a history of hip hop music. And I'm like, we sure do, and then so. Do you ask the one person who probably, there are probably two people who kind of know about this, who you could ask, maybe three at the university.
You mean
the
like
same
faculty?
The same three faculty, or do you go off the rails and ask people outside of the university who are not going to be teaching the class and like just bother them? Hey, write me a syllabus for this class. You know what I mean? Which is also terrible because. Or do you go to ChatGPT and say, hey, what's the syllabus for a history of hip hop class? Which that would generate it out perfectly immediately, which I would probably do.
How would you know? If you don't know about the history of hip hop, how would you?
Yeah, we know a little bit though, right? We know we need to talk about the pillars of hip hop. We just don't know how many there are because there's, depending on who you talk to, there's 5 or 11 or 20. And so that's one problem. Second problem is like I already, emailed the one person who I would email, the one faculty member who I would, who you would email about this, who you don't want to put more on their plate because their plate is full because they're the one representative of who would be, talking about this stuff. And already now I'm like, now I want to make sure that faculty member isn't pissed off at me for like assuming that I could write this, and so that's another thing. And so then I decided, well, why not just use Facebook, the open AI of last century, right? So I go on Facebook and I typed in like best history of hip hop music, go, just because like I'm not looking to find out. I'm not like it's not like, well, Facebook will solve it for me. It's like, oh, I wonder what my community of Facebook people will say. It's like taking a poll. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what are people going to? And Danny Ingram says, ask a teenager. Good idea, Danny. So it's interesting because it's great. There's a huge list of books that people have been putting down here?
Yeah, people recommended that one. That one book is
Alicia Rose, or what book?
What is it? The Up Down. What is it called?
Oh yeah. So
that was a good one. I remember.
Can't Stop,
that.
Won't Stop.
Yeah, that was good. That's old though, right?
Yeah. So yeah. Joe here says it came out in 2005. So if you're looking at the last 18 years, but I'm talking about a history.
Yeah. So 50-year history.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then there's Hip Hop Family Tree, and then there's The Big Payback, and there's something. So apparently, I didn't know this. David Foster Wallace's name is on something called Signifying Rappers. Thanks, Rusty. And then there's another, like, people are putting, tons and tons of. There's even somebody put up the Beastie Boys record here. Wells did, and so it's interesting. But then there's a couple of people who wrote Trisha Rose, Black Noise, Rap Music and Black Culture in Contemporary America. So our friend Tom Foe, who's a musicologist teacher at ISU, and is from Urbana, wrote that. And then our other theoretical friend whose opinions I very much respect, who's also a faculty member at ISU, like thumbs up that. And then also a previous faculty member also like had also already had suggested that book earlier on the thread. So it's funny because different types of people are writing in different types of books, right? And so like our PhD faculty are writing one certain type of book that's probably more theoretical than other people
culture.
are.
Yeah, more kind of cultural critique and studies, right? As opposed to a history.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But the history is interesting in a cultural way too, as if you start tracing it and
But and also that book is like from 1994, the Trisha Rose book.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
yeah.
So it's like our contemporary, you know what I mean? Like that's what really gets me like a little upset, like mostly upset is like when that's why we need to keep getting new faculty, and it's because like I know what my, you need to read Understanding Comics. That's the quintessential, book about, graphic, like visual style and visual communication and stuff like that, right? And then there's the black book that we had to read when we were in college too, like the
literary theory.
Yeah. So, does that ever change? Like who decides? It's us that decide to make new, to put new books in so that the next, the students who we're teaching, when they get asked this in 20 years, they go, oh, well, you need to read this.
No. I mean, so there's got to be, so with this 50th anniversary, so that's the thing is if this music and culture is, it's 50 years old,
yes,
that's a completely different. Yeah. So it becomes more like the way jazz is. You look at how jazz is taught in history, where although hip hop is still, sort of popular, right? It's mainstream.
It's still alive. Unlike
So this is what's all going on. It's like people aren't realizing with rock, it's like it's over. It's turning into jazz. It's kind of like and if you play this type of music, you're. I mean, that's what I feel like is like, I'm like an old jazz person, it's something from another era, and there's groups of people who are still interested in it. Actually, kind of, going back to your dad and finding that recording of, what was it, the Villa, I can't remember what it's called, in Chicago, like your dad playing the opening of this mob restaurant that Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and what's his name, Sammy Davis Jr. played, and that era of music, though, it was like 62, 63 or something like that, and so that era of music was still massively popular, right? And people were going out to see it, but it was already being replaced very quickly with new music, and so understanding that hip hop is still dominant, I guess.
Yeah, so like maybe you don't teach a history of hip hop. Maybe you teach a culture of hip hop.
No, I think the history. I think the history. Is, yeah, I think
but
it's time.
Could you go into the Could you go into the culture also?
You have to.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
what happens. That's what happens
yeah.
when you talk about jazz. That's what happens when you talk about any music, right? When you talk about folk music and you talk about country music, all of the kind of popular musics that have gone from being a folk music, right, and then has moved into the mainstream, and about how it becomes mainstream, co-opted, right, and talking about, like just even thinking about the Beastie Boys, it's like, oh yeah, Beast, it's an obvious echo of the Elvis pattern, right, where it's like you had Run DMC, right, and they got as far as they could. They did Rock Box, and then they did Walk This Way, right? Which was, then it was like, oh, you got the Beastie Boys. It's the white guys doing it, and then they're like the Elvis that kind of opens it up, and so there's all that cultural
appropriation.
Stuff. All of those narratives. But that's,
that can go in. So that's not. Yeah, that's. I guess that's the history. Yeah,
and then people, ownership. It's all about like, oh yeah, you think about the blues and you think about Led Zeppelin, basically, ripping off, all these blues musicians, and then but then there's the complexity of sampling, right? and
I think I know who I'm going to ask to help me write this syllabus.
I don't want to write it.
Well, and the thing is, we're not going to write it.
Every era, every week you could talk about culture, because it is, and it totally changes, right? So you have Rapper's Delight, and then which is fun party rapping, right? And then you've got Run DMC, which is kind of a little more edgy, and then you go to the White Lines and The Message, right, which has the more sort of social and political rap, and each kind of step.
Cody's asking if you're dissing on the Beastie Boys.
I'm not dissing on the Beastie Boys, but you have to look at them as, you have to, no, yeah. So I guess I would say I have a complex, nuanced view of Elvis, and I have a complex, nuanced view of the Beastie Boys.
Let's start with your complex, nuanced view of Elvis, and then let's go into
both
the
of
Boys.
Both of them, right?
I'm going to take notes.
Me, that's what was powerful about that era in New York City is that there was a huge amount of cross-pollination, punk rockers, no waivers, new waivers, and then hip-hop, B-boys.
You're not talking about Elvis right now.
I'm not talking, but it's the same thing.
Okay,
That's the same thing that was happening with Elvis, is like you have the music was facilitating cross-cultural sort of people were jumping these cultural lines, these racial lines, right? These racial barriers, right? Yeah. And it was a pathway, music, I think, is a very powerful uniting way of breaking down barriers between people, right? And so for me, it's like, oh yeah, having a bunch of white guys doing hip hop, right? It's like there's kind of maybe the Vanilla Ice thing, but then there's also the Beastie Boys thing. But maybe it's just because I feel more akin to white punk rock kids getting into hip hop, right? As opposed to whatever Vanilla Ice was, which it's entirely. I don't know enough about Vanilla Ice's narrative, but
so
just
Cody,
that idea,
he's dissing Vanilla Ice, not Beastie Boys.
What I'm saying is,
I know,
it's
I'm kidding.
It's the Beastie Boys are a bunch of white New York City kids who kind of
white New York City Jews. Let's just go a step further.
Yeah, and had pretty privileged backgrounds, not necessarily monetarily, but I think all of them, right, came from kind of the cultural elite, right, of New York City. So they're not
whatever.
They're not they're city kids, right? But they weren't poor kids, living in a ghetto environment and directly, it's like they're you could call them carpetbaggers, just in the same way. But like Elvis, same thing, right? You could say, even though he was a poor kid and just, listen to quote race music,
Yeah. So anyway, and Cody says poster children got him into reggae, and then he says "Lao." So that's nice. All right. So let's move on.
And
let's
so
move
like
on.
the Clash, all those.
Yeah,
all those bands,
yeah,
right?
because they were into dub, right?
That was a beautiful era, the late 70s, early 80s. Is where there was lots of crossover.
Before there was AI writing all of our songs.
Anyways, but yeah. So
but
there's
so
lots you can talk about.
Yeah. And I mean, I won't be teaching the class, and this is the curse and the blessing of like of academia. I don't like. We're gonna have to. We need to have a course like this, and we need to carefully figure out how we're going to teach it. Like, what are we going to teach about it? It needs to be, at least we know that. You know what I mean?
So what you're going to structure, you're going to build a syllabus, make a course proposal. It's going to be on the books, and then somebody's going to teach it. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's the thing is,
Yeah.
but there's flexibility within that as you create the kind of template
Yeah.
and the structure for it,
Yeah.
and then somebody starts teaching it, and
But-
they start developing and
Right.
yeah,
And I'm
evolving
gonna
the course,
I'm gonna
figuring it
ask
out.
everybody that I know, because I know I have friends who are really like who I've had speak on hip hop before, who are immersed in that in the culture and very educated on it. So there are plenty of people who can help us with this, and hopefully who we can find who would be interested in teaching a class like this. So happy Friday, Dannon. Yes. So that's the history of hip hop. Okay, we'll move on to our friend Santanu is coming, or Shantanu. I have to say his right. So he's changed the pronunciation of his name since he's moved to Austin. What?
Has he
Shantanu.
changed the pronunciation of his name, or is it just that's actually
how his name is supposed
to be?
Yeah, it's not Sean. And it's we should have him on again. But I'm so excited because he's coming to Champaign to give a talk, and I don't know what his talk is on in Champaign. I think it's for it's I should look it up. But it's not about Kung Fu, and we're grabbing him and making him come over here and do his Kung Fu presentation. And the last time he taught in front of my class, he taught online in front of my class, and he taught the movements of a form. And when I say a form, do you know what that is? Because I've been trying to figure out how to translate this to my students. So a series of movements that correspond to like the four elements, right? And it was so good. It was so neat because the students were standing up, and they're doing all these Kung Fu movements, like these, sort of easier, like basic Kung Fu movements with their hands. But Shantanu is also saying like, so this is a fire movement, so this, think about fire. And then this is a water movement. Think about how water flows this way. It's very strong, but it's, like all the different, when you think about the natural elements, they all have their capabilities and what goes with them and stuff. But then at the end, he talks about how you react to different situations, right? Like something comes up, like somebody says something to you, and you can react with fire. Like you could react with, well, fuck you, like you can be angry about it, or you can take their energy and use it against them, or you can which is either water or wind. I don't know. I can't remember anymore. And then there's a earth, how to answer with earth. And then I kind of remember the last one was just like sort of a mindfulness, like a patience, like sort of answer where like you just like sit with whatever happened, the situation happened. And like you don't respond right away. You sort of have a patient attitude and wait. I just loved, because it's everything that you kind of learn in meditation too. Like, when you sit in meditation, all these different thoughts come into your mind, and you're supposed to label them. And this is one meditation, right? Where you label them and hope they go away, because you're supposed to just you're not supposed to let them affect you. And so I just thought it was like a great introduction to that whole concept. and incorporated movement in it, which just gets me, crazy. I love the idea of incorporating movement. So I'm just so excited that he's going to come and teach this class again. And I went around and I asked all the directors of the different schools in the college, hey, will you contribute to this? And they were like, yeah, sure. They were like, and then I felt really bad. I was like, God, I'm like begging for funding for this, but I didn't feel that bad because I really believe in it, and it just seems so cool. So I'm excited about that. So will you come? You have to come. I'm gonna make Dow come too, I think.
All right.
Yeah, it'll be fun. But I can't remember what I was gonna say. I was just like, I'm you heard it here, folks. I think this is gonna be some. I hope Shantanu likes, talking about this stuff. He's always got so much stuff going on, right? So if you look up Austin Kung Fu Academy, you can see what he was in the Champagne scene for years, and he was a DJ there. And him and Holly, they did the WEFT sessions, right? And they were like the cheerleaders for the scene, and he was in bands himself, and yeah. So we should have him talk on here. But that's just a coming attraction for you people who are listening from Bloomington, Normal, Illinois. All right, you've been watching Star Trek a lot.
Yeah, it's the latest thing I watch when I'm doing work I can do with a TV running.
So yeah, I want to know this. This says Peacock on it still? This
No.
is that Peacock channel. No. Okay,
Pluto.
it's not. Pluto.
Not a
Okay, not
sponsor.
Peacock, or not a sponsor. So when I would come in the room for like a month and you were watching Wild West,
Wild West, yes.
That was a different channel.
Nope. Well, Pluto has it's basically like a. See, I feel like I'm doing an ad. It's
Not a sponsor. It's it's different channels though,
multiple
right?
channels.
Okay,
yes.
all right. So and then I would come in for
It's like
for-
kind of like open, or what is it called? Free
OpenAI?
cable.
Free
What
cable?
was it called?
Oh yeah.
Basic
yeah.
cable,
Yeah,
kind of,
okay.
But it's
All right.
advertising, but it's just streaming.
So I would come in and you would be watching for a good couple of months. There were the couple of months of the Talking Horse, not the Talking Horse, the spin-off of the
I
Talking
didn't.
Horse.
No. I did not.
Okay, not
there's
that,
no spin-off of Mr. Ed.
All right. The
Is there?
Beverly Hillbillies.
My Mother the Car.
The Beverly Hillbillies. You were
Green
watching
Acres,
Green
yes.
Green Acres.
Mm-hmm. I
Wait.
watched Mission Impossible for a while too. Actually, a little bit.
I
not
must
as
have been
much.
busy.
Hawaii Five-0 I watched for a while.
Yeah.
Old Doctor Who. They had
Yeah,
a long
that was like
running Doctor
forever.
Who.
You were watching Doctor
Yeah.
Who. I would come in and there'd be like Tom Baker would be on there, and then
Yeah.
you had the John Pertwee and stuff. So this
Yeah.
has been going on for a while. But now you're watching the Star Trek, and so I came in, and it looks a little different to me. And you said that they've like they've updated it or something.
Yeah, like 15 or 20 years ago,
Okay.
when they remastered everything, they
Oh my God.
updated the special effects.
All right, so that's crazy. So yeah, Larry's saying I think Time Tunnel is on there. Great show.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
Time
okay.
Tunnel.
Oh,
I need
yeah,
to.
yes.
Yeah. I
Oh,
haven't
you were
seen that.
watching.
I haven't watched Time Tunnel.
You were also watching the what is that called? That's not Black Mirror or whatever.
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, yeah. You were watching that for a while.
Yeah, I watch that once in a while. That I've seen. That's what's weird is the Star Trek stuff. The original series is like not remembering a lot of these episodes.
Yeah, that was freaking me out with you. Like so,
Whereas
we can't.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I
Remembered
remember
all.
all of them, and so yeah, I definitely felt like I had seen every Star Trek original series episode, but maybe
Yeah,
I
you-
just block them out, the bad ones, like they didn't. Whereas Twilight Zone was pretty consistently good.
Okay,
And
so
Star Trek original series is not consistently good. So I'm
So when
trying
you-
to figure out if I just only watched it occasionally or if I just don't remember any of it.
all right, so I would come in. I came in for a while to sit and watch it with you, and I didn't remember the episodes that were on, and it was like all Kirk was just falling in love with women. There was always a woman. It was on a different planet, and she was always in love with Kirk. He was either in love with Kirk or she was in love with Bones. But there's always a woman.
There are a couple.
It was season 3.
Bones get some action.
Yeah. So and you said that there was probably season 3, and I didn't remember any of those. And they were bad. Like they'd have paint on their face and stuff, and they're like, but then I came in just like this week. I think I came in, and I guess it was season 2, because there were good ones on.
It was the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2.
Yeah. So what was the first one that I came in and I was like, oh, and then this is going to happen and this is going to happen. I even
the
knew
one with the big cigar, the planet, the apocalypse one, right? What is it called? The Doomsday.
Yeah.
Doomsday weapon.
Yeah, I kind of remember that one a little bit, but like a couple of episodes before that, a couple of days before that, I was like, oh, well, this is going to happen, and this is going to. Oh, it was it the Spock and Heat one? That one, yeah.
You remember? I vaguely remember Spock in Heat, which I believe is the name, right, of that episode. Spock in Heat.
And I remember all the episodes. I remember that Spock's brain is the worst episode and the Tribbles are the best episode. But the
Tribbles is not the best episode.
It's not. No, because
it's the best. It's the most. Yeah, that's the thing is I remember they would show that on campus. Like somebody would do a fundraiser and they'd have a 16 millimeter film of the Trouble with Tribbles. And so I've seen that episode.
But do you know why we were waiting? And Joe, we're going to get to your stupid Elon Musk question in a minute. You got me all distracted now. Damn it. The triple. So a good Star Trek episode would be one where they had this witty banter at the end, like funny banter. They'd break out of their Star Trek roles and they'd be like Spock would smile and then they'd make a joke or something and so Tribbles is really full of some kind all of a sudden they're not in their standard roles. They made a joke or something. But the Spock and Heat one, I was very proud of myself because I knew, I was like, oh yeah, and then this is going to happen, and Bones is going to give him a shot, and it's going to make him, it's going to paralyze him, and then Spock is going to come out of his heat trance, and the lady, and I remember also the lady who he was supposed to marry didn't really love him either or something like that, and I was very proud of myself.
Yeah, her logical explanation of what happened confused me. But
it was great. She picked. Okay, so they're on the planet Vulcan apparently, and I wasn't even in here for most of this. I was sewing upstairs, but apparently on the planet Vulcan, and I remember Spock would be in heat every 7 years or something. He'd have to go back and make a pilgrimage to Vulcan, or he was supposed to be married to this woman. He was promised to her, and so he had to go back and let that be Larry's saying the Star Trek episode, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield with Frank Gorshin is one of the best ones. City on the Edge of Tomorrow, we'll talk about that in a second, but and don't let me forget to address Joe's Elon Musk question. But so Spock goes back, and there's another man there that's in love with the woman who he's supposed to be, that he's betrothed to, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But then he decides and then the woman decides that she wants Kirk to fight. Spock's got to fight the man, but she decides she wants Kirk to fight Spock. She's in love with Kirk, and then Kirk doesn't realize that it's a fight to the to the death. Andy's saying Spock and Heat is called Amok Time. That's right.
Amok Time.
Don't anybody let me forget Joe's Elon Musk question.
I'm just fascinated, how this podcast is degraded into
your fault for not having a list of
Star Trek original series recaps.
Okay. Well, all right. So because you didn't understand the woman's logic, and the logic is she chose Kirk because she didn't care about him, and he could die. If he died, then Spock would go away, and she'd get this other guy. If he won, I don't remember what would happen. He'd still have to go away. But she liked this other guy.
Yeah, no, I understood
she liked
that.
The other guy.
It's just the extra layers. We're just kind of okay.
Okay, all right, and then you were. To be fair, some of those episodes are written by the Conan saying written by some of the best sci-fi writers of all time. Yeah, I
Theodore
keep going in there.
Sturgeon, I believe, wrote Spock in Heat. So Kurt Vonnegut's friend,
Yeah, and I kept
inspiration for Kilgore Trout.
yeah.
I
And Harlan
believe
Ellison wrote. Did Harlan
City
Ellison?
on the Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, he wrote that. Yeah. So you like Rick came in the kitchen the other day and goes, well. Bones has got like stickers all over us. What did you say? He's got.
He's got the. I thought it was the suction cup.
He's got
stuff.
suction cups all over his
yeah,
face. You know what that means? It's the city on the edge of tomorrow.
No,
and
that's
I was like,
different. So the suction cups is something different. I can't remember what that one is. He's just spotty. So when Bones has got the spotty and he's about to jump through a gate. You know,
the time
like
portal.
time
You were.
portal, yeah.
Rick was all excited. He's like, you know what that means? It's the city on the edge of tomorrow, and they're forever. And then. And then like an hour later he comes in and he's like, well, she died again. And I said, who died? And he goes, Joan Collins. And I was like, isn't she already dead? And then I remember, and he just seemed dejected.
Joan Collins is still alive, and she is keeping Anthony Newley's perverse, strange directorial. Is it his only directorial run? He made this strange movie that is really hard to find, and Joan Collins, for some reason, still has control of at least that part of Anthony Newley's estate. So she's keeping. It's kind of like The Day the Clown Cried. Kind of like with Jerry Lewis, except it's Joan Collins is locking down this movie because it's so embarrassing, apparently, to her.
That's awesome.
And
okay.
She's still alive. So I'm waiting for Joan Collins to die so that I can see this Anthony Newley movie.
Okay. Let's see. Larry said. Larry, mentions The Prisoner. I guess it's.
I watched some of those,
Prisoner.
but I kind of burned out on The Prisoner.
You really, you watched that
years.
a lot.
Yeah, I watched
Spock
that too
and he
much.
is called Amok Time. To be fair, okay. Harlan Ellison, who wrote A Boy and His Dog, right? Did he write that?
Yeah, and who directed it?
Who?
L.Q. Jones. I always point him out. I'm like, oh, that's the guy who directed. He's this Western actor. He's in like The Wild Bunch and stuff. It's
okay.
Like he'll show up on a TV show or in what was another show I was watching? Have Gun Will Travel. Yeah, L.Q. Jones will show up and it's like, hey, that's the director of A Boy and His Dog.
Which I can't. I feel like saying I got to watch that again, but I don't. No. Okay. Cody says the cigar one was cool, that's the one we were just watching.
The
Doomsday Machine. Then Cody says Lava Monster. Yeah. And Danny Ingram says, here's Dan. This was 3 minutes ago, but it might be delayed. As a kid, I liked the episodes where they go back in time to a version of Nazi Germany, Chicago mob scene, etc. And Cody has written then.
Yeah, the Chicago. So that was
Gorn.
The thing is the city on the edge of.
Yeah.
Is it the edge of forever?
City on the edge of forever. I think it's
that's
forever.
what I got mixed up is when I first saw that I didn't remember, or I mixed up the Chicago gangster one.
Yeah.
With the Joan Collins one.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, wow, those are two different episodes.
Yeah.
She's not in Chicago. She's in New York. And, and it's like I always thought, like, so I must have seen both, but I didn't realize, like, in 50 years later, it's all been turned into one big giant episode anytime they go to Earth.
Okay.
Although Spock doesn't, like in the other one, the Chicago gangster one, Spock doesn't have to cover his ears. No, he wears a hat in that one, too.
Oh.
He just wears a different hat.
Right. So Andy reminds us not to forget to address Joe's Elon Musk question, and then there's Larry's asking about Napoleon. So Joe Chrisman says, "Sorry, I'm late. As Tesla owners, does Elon Musk make you question your purchase?"
Not questioning the purchase. I mean, I dislike that he's
as a non-Nazi. Does Henry Ford make you question your use of cars?
Definitely, that's my joke as always. I think I've said it numerous times on this episode. It's like he's taken the, I want to be the Henry Ford of electric vehicles a little too far. It's like when he starts publishing the protocols of the Elders of Zion, on X. That'll be like okay, Elon. I'm working on a Fire Elon sticker for the car.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Gotta do that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the thing is that he did not start the company. I mean, the reason why we bought the Tesla was not because of Elon Musk. It was because it was an established electric car company with a charging network. And it was, economically speaking, we got a great tax write-off on it.
And it's cheap.
We had
it's
a
the
new car.
cheapest
We had to
one.
buy it.
Yeah.
Well, we could have bought another used car, but we bought another used car recently.
Yeah.
So, it was like, okay, I've always wanted an electric car. This is, to me, the Tesla was the best choice at the time. It still is, I think, for an electric car.
I love that car. I'm sorry, but I use yeah.
You use the autopilot stuff and everything like that. That to me is that's all bullshit. So the idea that this car could drive itself, and I knew from day one that or it's
so
like
that's the same as open. It's the same as the Open AI.
Yeah,
Open AI.
startup bullshit.
That's not.
Yeah.
No. But you could say that the large language models are garbage and they're never going to take
I'm not
place.
saying they're garbage.
No, but
I'm just saying
just the self-drive. Also, I
all
use
the hype around it.
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
startup bullshit in order to generate.
Yeah. However,
and that's the thing is you realize about Elon Musk. It's like he is the advertising, and the Tesla doesn't do advertising. It's all word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't do traditional advertising. Yeah. So he, was kind of the advertising, we
don't have the car because of Elon Musk.
Right.
We absolutely do not have the cars. That we have it in spite of Elon Musk. And I use the self-driving when I'm driving. I'm driving 46 miles to Champaign, and there's nothing on the road. I use the self-drive. Damn straight, I use that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use it driving through the town or anything.
And we don't have the top level thing or whatever that you had to pay extra money for to unlock to be real self-driving. But it's just like, a little more sensor-based cruise control, right?
And Joe says, to be fair, we weren't taught. Are you trying to get into a fight with me? We love you, Joe. You know that. To be fair, we weren't taught that Henry Ford was an anti-Semite, nor did we know that Hitler loved him. That's not true. I was taught that he was an anti-Semite.
Yeah, it depends. I
Maybe
guess it
you
depends
weren't.
on. Yeah, it depends on your. Yeah. So I think it was common knowledge in my family. My dad also.
And your family wasn't even Jew.
Yeah,
Jewish.
wasn't Jewish, but
your dad refused.
Definitely refused. Oh, yeah, to subscribe to the Chicago Tribune for decades because of the original Colonel McCormick who ran that originally was a freaking fascist, and it was just like I think finally got a subscription to the Chicago Tribune when the Sun Times became unbearable.
Okay. But anyway, so yeah, Joe, we're using, I mean, I like the car. I don't like, obviously I hate Elon Musk. I'm also like, my capoeira instructor to upset me, talks about Elon Musk all the time. Elon Musk is terrible. And I'm like, yes, I know. And why you keep saying that? Why would it upset me? Like but it obviously upsets me. Conan's saying you can use a product and not fully endorse the viewpoints of the guy who owns the company. Larry says, bottom line, any electric car is better than having to pay these high prices for gas and also poisoning the earth. And then, somebody else is going to reiterate that, oh, well, where do you think you're getting the charging energy from? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
that's another thing my dad would always say.
Yeah.
Like,
Tim
okay,
Bowers.
please remember what's going on. Yeah, where the electricity is coming from.
Yeah. All right. So there's a couple other things here, but I interrupted you. You have more to say about Star Trek or Elon Musk right now, or Henry Ford, or Hitler?
It does bother me. I mean, and so, I also feel like, why get rid of him? I mean, I don't think he's essential for
Jesus, they got rid
Tesla.
of Sam Walton.
Sam Walton. They never got rid of Sam
Altman.
Altman, yeah. Never got rid of Sam
Walton. I gotta say, dude is not hard on the eyes. I'm telling you right now.
Great.
Well, he's no
That's not
Captain
actually
Kirk.
him. Yeah.
Oh. By the way, I didn't get to say this about Star Trek. There are I don't find I've said this before on Radio Zero. I don't find any men or women attractive. Actually, that's not true. I find all kinds of women attractive. Women, movie stars attractive. But no men movie stars attractive, except for Captain Kirk, whatever his name was, William Shatner, the young William Shatner.
Still alive.
Looks kind of looks like
90s.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like you, except without a beard.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully I'll
You're
look
my
as
Captain
good as
Kirk.
William Shatner does when I'm 90.
You are kind of nicer looking than him. He's got his eyes are your eyes are bigger.
He's had a little work done
Well,
over the years.
okay, what were you going to say?
About what?
Oh, all right. Well, I'm moving on here. Khan was a good looking guy. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Ricardo Montalban.
That was not his real chest, by the way, in the
I believe.
Rathacon in the movie.
I got two good questions here.
Just in case you're like, I got to look it up. How old was Ricardo Montalban when Rathacon came out?
72.
I'm going to say, guess
why do I know?
he is probably exactly my age right now, which is, that's going to be my guess, but I could be wrong. He could have been older.
Okay, this one will be quick. Larry is asking, since you're mentioning movies, are you guys interested in the Ridley Scott's upcoming movie, Napoleon? I am very interested, and I thought we should have a Ridley Scott-a-thon, but nobody wants that.
So he was in his 60s. Okay, so that's good.
And then people keep watching Blade Runner 2024 here, and I don't know why they do that. I can't. I've watched Blade Runner 1 over and over and over again, but I've only watched Blade Runner 2024 once.
Very long.
It's too long.
Really, Ridley Scott. I mean, I'm interested, but I watched. What did I watch? I watched the movie with
Legend?
Adam Driver. No, yeah, I haven't watched Legend. I don't. And I watched a couple of Ridley Scott movies, like the one that Ridley Scott complained that people didn't watch because they are on their phones instead. Like old man complaints, and not like, oh, well, why would someone want to watch it wasn't a 3-hour movie, 2-hour movie about the Gucci family, right?
Wait.
House of Gucci.
That's watch
what I
that.
watched. Yeah, it was
Wait,
okay.
by who?
But it's a Ridley Scott movie. It's like it's so that's the thing is
there a unicorn in
he's
it?
very much a technician and emotionally stunted, I believe, and in a Kubrickian way. I think they're very similar sometimes but like with Kubrick, the coldness I like, I guess. Whereas like Ridley Scott, it's just sometimes it's just kind of like I'm watching a chess match, right? I'm watching somebody playing chess, a well-filmed, chess match, and it's just kind of like,
This reminds
okay.
me of the conversation of, oh my God, the guy with the 2 letters for his first name, who makes all of the yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
P.T. Anderson?
Not P.T. Anderson,
okay.
no, the other one.
I don't know who you're
talking about. No, he has a P.T.
that.
Anderson. Who's the movie maker that our kid likes? Is that it?
Wes Anderson?
Yeah.
So there's there are 2 Andersons.
God.
Which one are you talking about? You're talking about Wes
Anderson.
Yeah.
The coldness of Wes Anderson.
Yeah, there are. I mean, it is. I guess that's just a style.
Well,
and I kind of felt it with Killers of the Flower Moon too. I mean, I liked. Well, that was the thing. Is like Leonardo DiCaprio was doing a pretty good job of making me. Yeah, I got really confused in that movie, but I don't think it was the directing. I think it was the acting.
Okay.
In a good way, like confused, like I'm supposed to, and then I didn't. Yeah, but then the problem was I didn't feel the heartbreak. Yeah, I didn't feel the heartbreak in Killers of the Flower Moon either,
well, you know why?
right?
Because you had to pee because it was 3.5 hours long.
Well,
Napoleon
right
clocks.
before.
Yeah. No, Larry says Napoleon clocks in at 2 hours and 37 minutes. I'm trying to keep us going here. We've
so
got
that's
more
similar
questions.
to the thing I always talk about with the Alfred Hitchcock, the Hitchcock Truffaut interview where Hitchcock says he killed a kid and the audience hated it, and you never kill a kid, and then people want to kill kids in their movies and get away with it to show that they could do something that Alfred Hitchcock couldn't do. And so doing Napoleon is just like, oh, Kubrick couldn't get Napoleon made, right? And couldn't crack the nut or get it done, and so it's just macho director bullshit.
You're
right?
probably right about that.
Oh, I'm totally right about
also, I like to see that Phoenix.
I myself, I will. This will be my cinematic humble brag is that I saw Abel Gance's the revival, whatever it was, of his Napoleon projected on 3 screens. Francis Ford Coppola did a re-release of that in 81, 82. Saw it in Chicago with his father directing the orchestra. So the silent film Napoleon movie with the 3 screens and some of the battle scenes are projected in the colors of the French flag. One screen is red, one screen is white, one screen is blue, and so it's just that's an amazing movie.
And here you are teaching web design.
And really, there's no way to capture it. You can go and you can get your I'm sure there's a Blu-ray or whatever Ultra HD copy of this film, but seeing it projected with a live orchestra,
was pretty cool.
Was one of those.
So you're not going to go see the
moments.
Napoleon movie with me?
Well, I'm just saying, it's kind of like when I saw Talking Heads live, front row, on the tour that was filmed for Stop Making Sense, right? It's kind of like
I like the humble brag.
It's kind of like, well, okay, yeah, that's great, but I can't.
It's playing at the normal theater.
I've seen the best concert ever, and it kind of ruins everything else, and it's kind of the same thing with Napoleon.
With the Napoleon.
Yeah, projection. It wasn't the best film experience I've ever had, but it's up there, and it's almost impossible to capture that experience.
Okay,
at home.
I'm excited to see the new Taika Waititi movie.
Yeah.
But what was the best cinematic or movie experience you ever had?
I mean, that's close to it. I mean, my family went to the Music Box Theater and watched a double feature of Burden of Dreams and Fitzcarraldo. That was pretty amazing.
And how old were you?
I was in high school. My mom took me to see 2001 in 70 millimeter. It must have been 10 years after, so I would have been 10 or 12, and we went to see it in the huge Oakbrook Theater. I think it was when it was still full size before they divided it into half, and it snowed while we were in the theater, and so I saw 2001, and then kind of had my mind blown, and then I walked out into the parking lot, and it had snowed after in the time we were in the theater, and that was pretty profound. I guess that's more than a cinematic experience.
Well, yeah, no, that's nice.
I'm trying to think of some other. That time you were there. We went to see Ron. The Akira Kurosawa movie on New Year's Eve in Chicago. Do you remember that in 1984?
Kind of.
That was at the Music Box too. Yeah, you probably don't. It was a bunch of like us from college, right? We were up north.
I don't know if I saw that.
I feel like you were with. I feel like you were there.
I don't remember.
Like it was a bunch of people from our dorm.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
On New Year's Eve, we all hung out and went to see that.
I saw I liked the Ebert Fest restored 70 millimeter, which you didn't get to see it. I'm sorry about that. You were watching the baby. It was Graham was had just been born,
but I saw the 70 millimeter at the Virginia Theater when David Lean did that re-release.
Yeah,
whenever that was.
We're talking about Lawrence of Arabia.
92.
But after the Lawrence of Arabia, the cinematographer gave Roger Ebert the frame of the film where Peter O'Toole snuffs out the flame, and that's my favorite scene of any movie ever. Is the didn't it hurt? Yes. What's the trick then? Oh, the trick is not minding it hurts. I love that.
Yeah.
But okay, so we got Cody says Scotty was a Nazi.
We went to. Did we go see to Brazil? Was that it?
I saw Brazil.
Okay, so
I don't
Ron
think I saw.
else.
Yeah, I have to see Ron. I think I remember you guys going to see Ron.
Yeah,
and me
maybe
not.
that was different. Yeah.
Scotty was a Nazi sympathizer. Is it true? I think
Scotty
that's
from Star Trek.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to look that up.
I just saw him. He was in not a Twilight Zone episode, but Outer Limits, I believe, episode playing. It's kind of like a film noir, Outer Limits, and Scotty, James Doohan. right? Was
Yeah.
a detective and had his regular voice. It was really interesting.
Joe's asking if Killers of the Flower Moon is worth getting a sitter. Yeah, it depends on how many times you get a sitter.
Definitely, because you do not want to leave a child alone for 3.5 hours.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
And then have you been watching Our Flag Means Death by YTT? No, I haven't been watching it, and I need to watch it. I'm an asshole for not watching it.
And I like the guy from
Rick didn't
Flight of the Conchords. I watched the first episode, and I didn't like it. So
I got to watch. I probably like it.
But I love, what's his name from... He played the manager in Flight of the Conchords, the other Kiwi.
I never remember.
The red-haired guy.
Larry
great.
says favorite movie experience was with his dad when he took him to see his first R-rated movie, Rollerball, the original one, not the remake. And then there is a
Rollerball, yeah, amazing.
Yeah. It's a good movie. And then so now, Zone of Interest looks really good. This is Cody, and then Tim Bowers asks, I finished reading Trouble Boys about the Replacements. Very sad tale. Do you have any crossing paths stories about them? Did they have any influence on either of you musically?
Oh, definitely influence musically.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, they pissed me off. I mean, what we saw that you were at that show, the Metro show, where they were shit.
Yeah.
So you'd have a 50-50 chance with the Replacements. Either you'd get the most amazing show in the world, or you'd get the drunken shit show. And so all of our friends in college, had saw them the night before in DeKalb, I believe.
Oh yeah.
And it was epic Replacement show, life-changing, and then they played the Metro, and it was just a shitty show. And I love them. I love the music. Definitely influential. Love, the eclecticism of those records, right? So if you Let It Be, that record's all over the place, and I love that.
The song "Here Comes a Regular," I remember sitting on your bed kissing you, and in the dorm we kissed,
and then
liking that song. That was one of our love songs.
Yeah, amazing band. But also though, as sort of viewing the kind of their attitude versus Husker Du, and kind of the live Husker Du show versus the live Replacement show, and it's definitely kind of an impact on, okay, I don't want to be the Replacements. I want to be Husker Du. I want to be the Machine kind of band, as opposed to the shambolic romantic rock and roll band. So that was an influence too, but yeah, mostly a positive influence, but also that was, I would say, a negative influence, where it's they disappointed me a couple times. I saw them a couple times live, and I never got to see an amazing Replacement show. Whereas I got to see frickin' 3 or 4 life-changing Husker Du shows. They Minutemen, things like that. Yeah. So
folks, what that means is you got to do Coke and not alcohol. Speed and Coke are much better if you want to be a. All right. So Cody is trying to think of a movie where they race and kill each other. The car one where they race.
Death Race 2000.
Death Race 2000. Yeah, probably right.
Probably.
Guy who made Event Horizon, is that the same guy? He's mentioning P.T. Anderson, but he's not. I think he's doing a Rose. Yeah. Well, I'm just reading comments backwards. Yeah. Sorry. No. Okay, look at Stink. Larry says Stink is my favorite Replacements album.
Interesting.
And then on the other, yes, Cody is saying yes, Death Race 2000.
Yeah. Paul Bartel.
That was a great movie.
Did Paul Bartel? No, he didn't direct it. He's just in it. Why do I think of Paul Bartel though with Death Race 2000?
I feel like I'm thinking of David Carradine, but that must be something
else.
He's
in it.
Oh,
David Carradine's the lead,
yeah.
But then,
would you rather your favorite band put out amazing albums or unforgettable live shows if they can't do both?
If they can't do both. Oh, he did. Yeah, Paul Bartel did direct Death Race 2000. Man, trivia brain, still working.
Good.
So yeah, the man who directed Eating Raoul also directed Death Race 2000.
God.
What was the question?
Would you rather your favorite band put out amazing albums or unforgettable live shows if they can't do both? I've listened to 2.5 hours of capoeira music, so.
I love records. Well, that was the thing is I think I had a couple opportunities to see bands whose records I loved, and then I saw them live, and they were great live also.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking of the Meat Puppets, but I can't remember if they were good live or
They
bad.
were. They were amazing
good.
live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
What makes a
Minutemen,
good
all
live
those
show?
things.
Well, this is funny because I was talking. I had Mike Moraski on the screen, on the computer screen, in front of like a room full of kids who
don't know good music
don't know
or
good
don't
music,
know what a live rock and roll show is.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just, and they were asking questions about Portal 2 and the what is the other one with the army guys?
Team Fortress.
Asking, but like real intense music composition, music theory.
It's their
questions.
It's their punk rock. It's
yeah,
their indie
yeah.
rock.
And he's
it's
like
their,
answering them and everything, and I'm like, I saw this dude. Like, I had to tell the story about the last show. I said, hey, Mike, I have a question for you. What's it like for you on stage? And he just kind of started laughing, and he's like, well, and then he talked about like getting lost in the music and stuff like that, which is what we all would do. That was nice. And said something about this is why he doesn't conduct. He doesn't direct the music because he'd get too intense into the music and he wouldn't know what happened afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice. And the students all listened to that. But do you remember like the last show? I think the last show when we were on tour was Steel Ball Bathtub. I think it was in England or something. And I feel like we were on rented equipment, so like they wanted to destroy their gear, but it was somebody else's gear, so they really just carefully laid down like the drums.
Right,
remember, like
that.
really carefully laid down all the cymbals, and carefully put all their instruments down. And just there was this like noise cacophony, and I talked about that. And students
it was
listened.
great. It was very artful because it was kind of the Who kind of Nirvana smashing. Stuff. It was,
and that was Steel Pole Bathtub that blew Nirvana off the stage, right?
Yeah, in Champaign. Yeah. Well, the Nirvana guys at the time were in a van. Yeah, it was the first record. And starving. Yeah. Apparently, I mean, I feel these are Mike's stories, but like, they were feeding them. Like they were. It was
should ask them those questions too.
Yeah. He's got Nirvana
stories.
Yeah.
Damn.
Pre Nirvana fame stories. Just touring with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that Nirvana Steel Pole Bathtub show is like, I remembered Steel Pole Bathtub, definitely riveted. And then when Nirvana came, when Nevermind came out, it was like, oh, they were the opening band with the left-handed guitar player, the band that opened for Steel Pole Bathtub. That was how I recognized Nirvana. I was like, it's that guy with the left-handed guitar. Because you rarely saw a left-handed.
Yeah, okay, Gordon's here
player.
now. Gordon's says Nirvana was late. I remember that. Steel Pole Bathtub went on, and they were kind enough to let them play even though they were late. I remember that.
I held a grudge against Soul Asylum for years, or a couple years, until I saw so many Soul Asylum shows that were, that blew me away. But the first time I saw Soul Asylum, they were supposed to open for Husker Du,
right.
And they were late.
Yes.
I think that was at the Metro.
Yes,
and so Husker Du played,
Yeah.
and then said, okay, our friends Soul Asylum have made it, and they're going to play now. And
we were mad.
I was mad.
Yeah,
I was like, I want, and then they played, and they weren't quite, it was still transitional loud fast rules to Soul Asylum. It wasn't quite there, and I also felt like, wow, these are irresponsible guys not getting to the show on time. And then and I was very judgy, right?
Yeah,
so that was
there was something else that Mike said, was just like, we just played a couple of shows. They played some anniversary shows, like, right? Did they play?
They played in Austin,
right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Or no. Was it Austin?
No,
Texas, Houston,
no,
Dallas.
Was it, or did they play?
Or they're going to be. Anyways.
But he said, "Oh, we practiced so much for those. It's like they practiced like crazy for those. It sounded like us.
Yeah.
When you ask Poster Children to play, it's like 2 months of practice that we have to do in order to play a show."
All right.
Joe is saying that he hopes his kids get to experience live music and get the same feelings that he did when he was young.
And so, but it's kind of like, did you go see Miles Davis? And it's like, I didn't see Miles Davis. And it's like, I should have. And it's kind of like once I feel like that era and our era of music is
Yeah, you want them to
old.
have their own. That's
Yeah.
like our colleague who the singular colleague that teaches the same type of art that we do in the School of Art came in and told me that that he had seen Slow Dive just recently, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, and he was like, what? How do you not like them? And I'm like, I don't know, I don't know anything, like, and then he was like, my kids don't like this, like don't like a certain type of music, and I was like, well, that's good parenting. They shouldn't like what you don't want
But
them
it's
to like
different
what you
now.
like.
It's different
Yeah,
now.
I
It's so
know they like
different now.
everything. Yeah.
Got a kid who listens to Creedence Clearwater Revival and Tyler the Creator. It's just it's all different. It doesn't make any sense.
It's all
anymore.
that AI. Joe
it's just
Chrisman
different.
is saying that Hot Glue Gun did it for me. That song "I'll Kill You"
It's
is
a great song.
one of the top 5 songs ever written.
Yeah, great song. And it's pretty good on record.
Yes.
Not quite as good as the live performance, but the record is good.
Yeah.
All right, we got to go. We got to take our kid to get a COVID booster.
Oh. Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
All right, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
That was a topic-free episode that went an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, you get your money's worth here.